enforced for the Justice Department and IRS. In 2014, Representative Cleaver headed up a meeting with several thousand clergy along with representatives from FEMA, IRS, and Eric Holder. According to Cleaver, the pastors minister to a total of 10 million Christians. Cleaver clearly stated that the purpose of the meeting was to equip the pastors with what they needed to know about what they can say and not say in the church. If you find it too hard to believe, let the congressman tell you in his own words what I have just written here. Through 501c3 regulations, DHS and FEMA have made it nearly impossible for your pastor to tell the truth of what is coming. As part of the clergy response training, their initial and primary training was to tell their flock to obey the DHS version of Romans 13. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God that be ordained of God. Romans 13:1. Pastor Mansfield attended several briefings, and he could barely believe his ears. He learned of the government's plans to enact martial law as well as to implement forced population relocation. Mansfield emphasized that when martial law is enacted, the enforcement would be immediate. In other words, family members will be separated from each other, and part of the training that the clergy received was how to comfort separated family members. Pastor Mansfield emphasized that FEMA DHS drills were predicted on bioterrorism. The pastors were trained to go into homes where people refused to be relocated by the authorities, and their immediate job was to convince the reluctant to willingly go to relocation camps. Ostensibly, this was done in lieu of sending in the SWAT team. I asked Mansfield if FEMA camps were real, and he stated that much of the clergy training focused around the scenarios of pastors operating within forced relocation centers. The main goal of the pastor assigned to a FEMA camp was to bring order and encourage compliance with DHS requests, hence the emphasis on Romans 13.
DHS requests. I like the way they phrase it.
Yeah. The pastors were forced to sign a non-disclosure. The most interesting and disturbing fact that I learned was the fact that the pastors were told not to quote Scripture. The DHS document, which was prepared for the pastors, clearly stated that Scripture had been used to oppress people in the past, and the presenters strongly discouraged its use.
By the way, and so they're using Romans to
people.
Yeah,
that's what they don't quote it. They just want to say this is
we're going to suppress you, and when you use the Scripture for reference, but don't you suppress the people?
Oh no.
Please see the following excerpt from one of the DHS training manuals. Healing Scripture and Prayer in Pastoral Crisis Intervention. During the time of crisis, people do go through a crisis of faith. Sometimes quick mention of God in Scripture may not be helpful. As we all know, the Scripture has been used to oppress, dominate, at the same time used for healing and reconciliation, renewing of relationships with people of God. If the pastor senses it is appropriate to use Scripture and prayer, it must be carefully be done for healing of victims, not to uphold pastoral authority. Page 14.
Yeah, let alone God's authority.
Also on page 14 of the same training document, pastors were admonished to avoid unhealthy God talks. Specifically, pastors are ordered to avoid using references to God when helping people cope with the loss of loved ones. 4. God must have needed him or her more than you. 5. This is part of the God talks. God never gives us more than we can handle. Pastor Mansfield also revealed that pastors will be issued badges under the Clergy Response Team program. Any pastor not displaying the badge indicating that they have been trained under these guidelines will not be permitted into the established and designed DHF safety zones. This reminds me of the banishment of religious figures from Plymouth Colony who, in good conscience refuse to go along with some of the extremism of the day. Pastors are absolutely forbidden to publicly to speak about any aspect of this program. If you asked your pastor if they had FEMA trained pastor, if they were a FEMA trained pastor, they would not likely tell you. Disturbingly, Pastor Mansfield reiterated several times that the number one job of these pastors is to calm down people, encourage their compliance with the people's new surroundings, i.e. FEMA camps.
Warning, are you a FEMA trained pastor?
No, I'm not.
I don't think he wants to. He wouldn't admit it. A badge of merit.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Very disturbing part of that was that they said that they would separate family members. Why? I mean, that's just not right. Again, government. That's, separate family members just doesn't seem right to me here. We'll talk about this. What do you think of this situation? And like I said before, and I say all the time, even if I'm off the air, you could still respond, because we'll talk about it next week on the Gary Russin program right here on GJRB. So there, you can you can talk about it. You can respond. That's what I want. Let's get some action here. Love to hear from you today on GJRB. Speaking of next week of the Gary Russin program, the next Gary Russin program, it's a Freestyle Friday. That means anything can happen, and usually does. Chat rooms will be opened early. You need replies to this show, I'll read them to you on the air. Also, President Obama will not support Israel. Hey, why? He's a Muslim. Hey, look what he's doing to America. My stand on America and Israel next week. Start supporting American Israel. Of course, listen to the Gary Russin program next Friday, 1 o'clock Central on GJRB. Next week, the Gary Russin program right here. Tune in on GJRB.
Country, bluegrass, or jazz artists that would like your music to be played on GJRB's up-and-coming show, now's the time. Just send me an email containing an MP3 of your music, along with information of your band or solo artist, including the city and state and origin and bio to up-and-coming at my email address, GaryJ65@yahoo.com. Also include the name of the song or album in your email. SoundCloud listeners, this also goes for you. If you subscribe to GJRB Online and SoundCloud and your songs are on there, I would like to play them for you. Just give me permission at the same aforementioned email address and say, Gary Russin, play my song. Then listen to Up and Coming with different shows in each genre. Program schedules will be available in my new Google Plus blog, or log on to www.Spreaker.com on my Gary John Russin public site for up-and-coming schedule information. Attention musicians, if you're starting a band or just starting a solo act on your own, go to the place on the internet where you can get equipment at great prices. HelloMusic.com. They have guitars, amps, mixers, and microphones, some at great low prices. Log on today and look at the equipment and the prices. www.hellomusic.com. Like them on Facebook for chances to win guitars, mics, and other band equipment. Remember the name, Hello Music.
And wrapping up the Way Out There show here on GJRB Online, where there's a new segment called the Way Out There Leftovers. I don't have any. Pretty well covered, I think. Pretty well covered it, except for the schedule rundown, very briefly here, of Coast to Coast AM this week. Tonight, Writer, editor, bestseller Mark Leslie is specializing in the speculative fiction and paranormal nonfiction bookseller, an advocate for books, ebooks, and digital technology within publishing. Mark will discuss his love for the more bizarre genres and will share true tales of eerie, frightening, spooky events, much like episodes of The Twilight Zone. That'd be a good one. Journalist and author David Yonke joins George Knapp for the first half to discuss the brutal slaying of Sister Margaret Ann Paul Yonke, who covered the case of the Toledo Blade. He shares details on ritual killing and how later Father Gerald Robinson, who presided over her funeral, was found guilty of the crime. That'd be a good one. And William Scott will discuss the campaign to force police to disclose the true number of people they've killed every year and why bad cops continue to be protected instead of arrested. Oh, that'd be a good show to listen to. And the one I think is going to be interesting, Sunday night, David Polides joins George Knapp to share more bizarre stories of missing persons in the national parks and forests throughout the United States. He'll describe additional victims and circumstances while outlining several new geological clusters of people who vanished without a trace. Tracking technology, children's past lives on Monday, Russian Watch Mystical, but on Thursday night, Earth Files. Linda Moulton Howe will have a show discussing the unexplained lights coming from Sears, a new data on the University of Colorado Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics about Saturn's moons, and explanation of the metallic sounds going on and rumblings that baffle various presidents in the U.S., Canada, and spots of the world. So she's going to be talking about what we were just talking about today. So check that out. For more on that schedule, and you want to get on Coast to Coast AM's website at www.coasttocoastam.com for a full rundown of this week's guest schedule on Coast to Coast. And that's going to wrap it up for Way Out There. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll do this again in the next month from now. Okay, about the third week of the month. Don't know what date that is, but I will post information on that when I get my calendar out, which I'm not sure exactly where I put it. I always put my calendar in an oddball spot. Luckily, I think I found it. The next time we get together for a Way Out There show, if you want to join me, will be on April 17th, Friday. So join me then. We'll have some more fun talking about the weird, the bizarre, the unusual. It'll follow right after another edition of The Last 7 Days next month, right here on GJRB. Every third Friday of the month, Last 7 Days heard live. Well, actually, it's a podcast, but live here on GJRB and GJRB LP-FM 9-foot signal right here in Clinton, Iowa. I'm Gary J. Russell. Look up in the skies and let me know what you see way out there. Have a great night, everyone.
It's happening. It's happening again, folks. Down in Heritage Canyon, Fulton's third annual Bluegrass Festival. Mark your calendars. Saturday, June 20th. We've got new bluegrass. We've got old bluegrass. There's something for everyone. This year, we've teamed up with the Clinton and Fulton Chamber of Commerce and are expecting crowds from Des Moines, Chicago, and Rockford. Bring the family and stay all day. That's Fulton's third annual Bluegrass Festival. Saturday, June 20th, down in Heritage Canyon. We'll see you there.
You're great, James. GJRB KRB with the best of jazz, up-and-coming jazz, and smooth afternoon. If you can't get enough of jazz and you live in the Quad Cities area, tune in to KALA, St. Ambrose University.